Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this EURADOS webinar. My name is Francesco Rossi. I am a council member of the EURADOS. I will just very shortly introduce the EURADOS. The EURADOS is the European network of the dosimetry. If you want more information, you can have a look to the EURADOS website. EURADOS has a lot of tasks. One of these tasks is to provide webinars, and this is one of the webinar planned. You can have a look to the EURADOS website to see all the recorded webinars. This webinar will also be recorded and available on the YouTube channel of the EURADOS. Before starting the webinar, I inform all of you that you can raise questions, but you are muted. So to ask a question, to raise questions, you have to use the chat. Should be available for all of you. We will monitor the chat and answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. I give the floor to Kerry Olsen that will introduce this webinar.
Thanks, Francesco. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So my name's Kerry. I work for the UK Health Security Agency, and I'm part of the organising group for EURADOS Intercomparisons. So I'm going to be introducing you today and then closing out the session. So this is the 29th EURADOS webinar, and today, hopefully, we're going to take you on to an A to Z of EURADOS Intercomparisons, specifically whole body photon dosemeters. So we'll start with an agenda for this morning. So again, I'm going to start off with a welcome and introduction to the Intercomparison programme. We're then going to hear from Christian Gartner from the Cyberstorff laboratories in, I believe, Austria, and he's going to give us an overview of the Intercomparison from the coordination lab's point of view. We're then going to have speaker Christian Michailescu from the Belgian Nuclear Research Centre, who's going to give us an overview of this Intercomparison from the irradiation lab point of view. We then have a member of our organising group, Hannes Statman, who's going to give us an overview of the anonymized results from this Intercomparison. Then Tom, head of our organising group, will give us a conclusion and talk about the future plans for Working Group 2 and our Intercomparisons. We're then going to have an open Q&A session where we encourage all participants in this meeting to post their questions and ask anything that you want to ask. And then I will be closing out the session with an introduction to the ongoing 2025 iDosemeter Intercomparison. So as we said earlier, if you could add comments or questions into the chat during the open Q&A session, and we should be having that hosted by Nikki Gibbons, who's head of our Working Group 2. So a little bit of an overview of the organising group. So our main role is to organise intercomparison exercises for individual monitoring services. We cover intercomparisons for personal dosimeters, for photon and beta irradiations, and we cover quantities HP10, HP3, HP 0.07. Our current composition as of January 2026, we have 7 current members headed up by Tom. Myself and Nellis are both relatively new to the organising group. We joined last year, so one of my roles in the organising group is organising these participant meetings, and we bid a very fond farewell to Anna Maria Romero, who left the organising group in 2025. So for the benefit of anybody in the audience who might not be familiar with the intercomparison process, I'm just going to take a minute to cover the what, why, when, and who of intercomparisons. So an intercomparison is conducted to systematically assess and enhance the quality, reliability, and understanding of a system, model, data, or process by comparing them against each other or a common benchmark. So in terms of a dosimetry intercomparison, it would mean using the same facility, using the same processes to dose different types of dosimeters so that we can assess their commonalities and differences to things like radiation type, radiation intensity, radiation energy, and angles of radiation. So why do we do this? Well, it helps to identify common strengths, weaknesses, biases, and some sources of uncertainty. It can provide an objective test of an item's performance, precision, or accuracy. When you compare different systems, sometimes you can reveal unexpected similarities, differences, or sort of unknown previous connections. So for us, it would allow us to assess pros and cons of different dosemeter types and different systems, so OSL versus TLD. So when do we do intercomparisons? Well, it depends on the systems being compared, of course. It could be yearly, 3 yearly, or 5 yearly. So we say periodically, maybe every 1 to 3 years. It can depend on availability, accessibility. It's obviously more important to do it more frequently if things like technologies and systems or processes have changed or change frequently. And then in terms of the who, it can be small intercomparisons with neighbouring labs. It can be larger ones with national or international labs. We recommend you try and partake in intercomparisons with labs that are similar or better traceability status. So in terms of our intercomparisons, the irradiation and coordination labs need to be appropriate facilities that have the necessary traceability. So think primary, secondary standard facilities, have maybe accreditation such as ISO 17025, and certainly use the correct international standard reference fields from things like 4037. So in terms of the dose meters, basically anyone can and is welcome to take part. The more systems, the more dosemeter types, companies, institutes, and in fact countries that can get involved, the bigger the data pool we can collect, the more information we have then to compare. Okay, so this is a timeline of our most recent intercomparisons from 2008 up to present. So as you can see, we've managed to keep a fairly good 2-year schedule for our whole body photon intercomparisons. We're due a whole body intercomparison this year in 2026, which Tom's going to allude to later on in his presentation. The intercomparisons for extremity and eye dosemeters, slightly more sporadic, especially with the COVID-19 years, which kind of delayed the onset of the next one. Now they're back on track. We're aiming for these to be every 4 years. And then, in fact, as I alluded to earlier, we're going to be finishing up an eye dosemeter intercomparison very soon, and I'm going to be talking about that later on at the end of this session. And then last but not least, we also have a smaller task group that runs parallel to ours that oversee a neutron intercomparison program, neutron dosemeter intercomparison program, and that historically runs every 5 years. So we may be due on in 2027. It's to be confirmed. And then just a little bit of an overview of how the intercomparisons have changed over the years. So again, since we started running in 2008, we've seen something of a steady increase in the number of participating countries, IMSs and systems. We plateaued a bit into 2020. In 2022, we had 96 individual monitoring systems from 36 countries and 116 systems. In 2024, the IMSs went down slightly to 89. The number of countries participating went up slightly to 37, and overall we still had 116 systems. So again, the more labs with individual monitoring systems that we can get to participate in these intercomparisons, the better that pool of data we can collect from them. And the more data we have, the more likely it is we can find things like commonalities and differences. And it's also a good way to help improve current technologies or develop current technologies and develop new technologies as well, maybe fill in any gaps that we find in our analysis. So coming back round specifically to this intercomparison, this is the 2024 whole body photon intercomparison. We had Christian Gartner from the Cybersdorf laboratories as our coordination labs. We had Christian Mihalescu from SCKCEN as our irradiation labs, and we also had Christian Gartner again as our online platform administrator. So Christian Gartner is now going to take over for 10 minutes and talk about his point of view from the coordination lab. So thank you very much for listening. And I'm just going to stop sharing screens now. There we go. So Christian, when you're ready.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the organization group, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my work as a coordinator of the 2024 EURADOS Intercomparison. Okay, let's start with a few words about me. I'm working in Cyberstorf at Cyberstorf Laboratories for 21 years. I've been responsible for the verification and calibration of radiation protection dosemeters all the time, and I changed to Cyberstorf Academy last year, and now I'm a staff member of the Cyberstorf Academy. I'm the developer and the creator of the EURADOS online platform, and I have been coordinator of the EURADOS intercomparisons since, not since 2014. I have been the coordinator of the 2014, 15, 16, 22, and 24 intercomparison. And I have been the administrator, which is the technical manager of all EURADOS intercomparisons since 2014. In my spare time, I'm a paramedic. I'm a head of the Red Cross Special Unit Sewer and Decontamination in Lower Austria. And my master thesis was about methods for preclinical decontamination of contaminated patients. So you see, radiation and radiation protection is an important part of my life. The online platform, just a few words, is easy to use, is platform independent. It doesn't work with fancy JavaScript and other things. It's secure, of course, HTTPS, databases on different services, login data encrypted, and so on. One important feature is you can see, or participants can see in real time, the status of the intercomparison and their dosimetry system. So you see if your system has been received by the coordinator, if it has been sent back to you, and so on. It's a one-stop shop. All relevant information regarding the intercomparison is available, including documents for download, including the draft reports, the final reports. It's available in different languages. At the moment, only English and German, but it would be easy to add another language. And it is reusable. All intercomparison specific data is stored in a configuration file or in some more configuration files. And so the online platform can easily be used for the next intercomparison. And this is the reason why this online platform has been used for every intercomparison since 2014. A few words about the programming background. Up to now, it's nearly 15,000 lines of PHP code written by myself, 7 database tables with more than 27,000 records for the actual intercomparison. It took countless hours of programming and testing, but it was fun. I like this. And now we have an online platform which makes life very easy for the participants as well as the coordinator. And this is the reason why it has been used for more than 10 years. All of you who have taken part in the actual intercomparison have seen the online platform. Just a few screenshots. Starting page, documents are available. Also labels for the address labels, which makes life easier for the participants. They can just print out the labels and stick it on the shipments. Instructions for readout, instructions for sending to dosemeters. All information which is needed by the participants can be found on the online platform. You can manage the data of the contact person, email address, phone number. You can manage the data of your monitoring service, who is responsible for the monitoring service, the address, invoice address, and so on. You can add one or more dosimetry systems with which you want to take part in the intercomparison. You can choose which measurement quantity, how many detectors, and so on. And you always are asked to upload an image of your dosimeter system, which is very important for the irradiating laboratory to know which is the front side, which is the back side, where is the reference point. And one of the key features, you always see in the status page what has been already done. You have, for example, your application has been received, your application has been accepted, that those meters have been received by the coordinator, those meters have been sent back to you, and so on. You also see all the information, and if some information is missing, for example, you see there is work to do. This was the online platform. Some words or some data about the 2024 intercomparison. The online platform makes life much more easier for a coordinator, for me and for other coordinators, but there is still a lot of work to do, a lot of tasks to do. For example, staying in contact with the participants, with all of you, answering questions, helping them with issues, with customs issues, and so on. So in total, more than 1,400 emails have been sent from the participants to the coordinator. I answered 760 emails manually, and more than 4,400 emails have been sent by the online platform automatically. These are mainly updates from the online platform informing the participants that those meters have been received, or thank you for the application form, something like that. So in total, more than 6,500 emails, which is on the one hand an impressive number, and on the other hand shows how much information flow is going from the coordinator to the participants, which is, to my mind, a very important fact to keep the participants updated all the time, so they always know what's the current status, what's next, what they have to expect, what are maybe tasks they have to do, and this is important for intercomparison with a very large number of participants. A few statistics, a few numbers of the intercomparison. 89 monitoring services from 37 countries were taking part. A lot, mostly of Europe, but also South America and South America and Europe mostly. 116 dosimetry services with a total of 116 dosimetry services. Receiving those meters, checking them, repacking them, and sending them to the irradiating laboratory is still a lot of work. This time there were 3 large boxes full of those meters, and of course I have always more than one background measuring those meters. An electronic dosimeter, you see it here, is always with the dosimeters to keep track of the background dose, which is distributed to the dosimeters during the time in Cyberstorf, during the journey to the irradiation laboratory, and during the journey back, and during the time that those meters spent in the laboratory. After receiving the dosimeters, they were sent back. After irradiating the dosimeters, they were sent back to me. I organized the pick-up from the irradiating laboratory, and especially taking care that the dosimeters were transported over land and not with a plane, because it's important to avoid any X-ray controls at European Union external borders or airports. As I've mentioned before, APDs have been in each carrier box to check or to keep a track of the background dose. So this time, approximately 280 microsievert for transport dose and background dose in Cyberstorf and in the irradiating laboratory have been distributed to the dosimeters, which is from August to December. Let's come to a conclusion. Yes, it was a lot of work. Yes, there were many hours spending in developing the online platform, many evenings spent with intercomparison tasks. Challenges and questions emerged that I hadn't expected, even after being a coordinator for so many times. There's always something new, some new challenge, some new tasks to solve. But it was always nice to have contact with the participants. After so many times being coordinator, a lot of them, we know each other from countless emails. Of course, it made me proud to see how well the online platform is running or was running. I really like to be coordinator. Yeah, and yes, I'm looking forward to the next EURADOS intercomparison. And to end this presentation with a little funny picture, it's always fine that the shipping agents take so much care about our shipments. Do not X-ray check. Thank you, DHL, for this. So thank you for your attention. Thanks for listening to my presentation. And back to Carrie.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So that was Christian Gartner from Cyberstorf Laboratories giving us an overview of the 2024 whole body dosemeter photon intercomparison from the coordination lab point of view. So if you've got any questions for Christian, feel free to put them in the chat box now, or you can wait till the open Q&A session. Up next, we will have another Christian Mihailescu from SCKCEN, who's going to give us an overview of the intercomparison from the irradiation lab point of view. So Christian, when you're ready, please feel free to share.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Liviu Cristian Mihailescu. I'm working at SCKCEN in Belgium. We acted as irradiation laboratory for this comparison in 2024. I will try to present first our lab and then the task we got, and I will conclude with some challenges. I will mention the complaints we got from the participants and some errors that probably in the future it will be much easier to avoid. So SCKCEN is located in northeast of Belgium, and it's a big research institute that contains the almost all, or if not all, nuclear research in Belgium. And the laboratory for nuclear calibration, it's just a very, very small part of SCKCEN, only with 3 staff members. We are part of the radiation protection dosimetry and calibration group, where Philippe Van Avere is the head. And we are a designated institute for metrology of ionizing radiation in Belgium. The lab was established in this form in 85, but probably it also functioned before within SK in some form. It was one of the first services accredited from SCKCEN, and since 2012, it's the designated institute for metrology of ionizing radiation. We do calibrations and irradiations for end users, and we maintain the national standards for metrology of ionizing radiation for all 3 subfields: dosimetry of photons, activity measurements, and neutron measurements. We do commercial activities and research projects. And in 2021, we built a new building for our laboratory, completely new, to accommodate more installations. The building has a control room in the center and 6 irradiation rooms completely independent around the control room. For this exercise, we used the X-ray room with 2 X-ray tubes, the horizontal cesium cobalt irradiation room, the panoramic, and the radiotherapy grade cobalt 60 irradiator. So this is a photo of our X-ray dual tube generator. Pretty standard for dosimetry calibration labs. We have two tubes, one of maximum 100 kilovolts on the right side and one of maximum 320. A few energies can be overlapped between the two tubes. Automated filter wheel, linear positioning system, automated and computer control. As default, we have the N series, RQR, and W series defined for routine measurements. All these ISO 4037, or almost all of them, were already included in this paper and measured with the SPECT-hour measure with a germanium detector, and we can say that our radiation qualities for with X-ray are matched, and also in addition we characterize them with spectrometry. These are typical example of spectra that we measure at LNK, and we always use the conversion coefficients from air kerma to operational quantities measured by us with a germanium detector. So this is the example of the highest, the irradiator with the highest dose rate. We use it for radiotherapy cobalt-60 calibrations for the Belgian hospitals, but also for radiation protection calibrations and irradiations with variable distance from 80 centimeters to about 6 meters. Now it has about 30 gray an hour dose rate, so it makes irradiations pretty fast. And we have variable collimator typically used for radiotherapy. Full automated linear positioning system. So in the photo, you see the irradiator, the brown device, and just a water phantom on the table. So then we used also for this comparison the panoramic irradiator that has one cobalt and one cesium source. This irradiator is very handy for irradiations of multiple dosimeters at the same time, like determination of individual factors. Of course, the new ISO 4037 from 2019 clearly specified that the radiation beam should be collimated. It's just one word. This panoramic will not fulfill these requirements, but everything else is actually fulfilled in terms of scattering and uniformity of the beam. So it's just one word that may make it to deviate from the full requirements of the ISO standard. Then the most used irradiator, it's our horizontal GC60 with 4 cesium and 4 cobalt sources. This is the irradiator with the conical 20 degrees collimator. We have automatic linear positioning system that moves in 3 dimensions, an automatic plug and play rotary table. And in the photo, we just put here a detector, an ionization chamber as an example. Automatic pressure temperature sensors are pretty close to the table, and always electrometer nearby. So the work procedure is that if we need to put a detector on the table, the operator goes inside, positions the detector on the table, and then with a video camera, we read the display. If we read ionization chamber, the reading is fully automated. So the digital workflow, everything is fully automated. I know pretty recent from 2021. I already have ideas how things can be done better. So we use multiple utilities written in LabVIEW by the manufacturer of the irradiators to register the irradiation, to report also to control the rotary table. And more important, we have one common database for all irradiators, cesium, cobalt, radiotherapy, neutrons, and everything is reported automatically with Excels and macros, and we create digitally signed PDFs from this. So now you know a bit about our lab. So the task we got from EURADOS was pretty simple. So I saw now the presentation of Christian, and okay, I was not aware about too much about his work. EURADOS just asked us to irradiate with the following radiation qualities, and within this dose range and the number of dosimeters. Of course, it was in this case also a mixed irradiation, one after the other, first X-ray and then cesium. And we knew that we have about we have 20 dosimeters per system. We have 10 irradiations per system. We will get dosimeters for background and also spare. That's very important because sometimes we may irradiate wrongly and we have to repeat. 2 months were scheduled for the irradiations. We did it well in time. Now that we learn a lot in the future, if really needed, we can do it even faster. And we expected about 100 systems, and I think we're about 120 in total at the end. So this is what we got. For us, it was like a blind exercise. The participants were anonymous. Of course, there are one or two participants that actually left the logo of the institution on the dosimeters. So like that, we guess who they were, but they should not be in the future. So we got these 3 boxes, the content as Christian showed, with one electronic dosimeter inside, and periodically we wrote down the readings of this dosimeter. And when we unpacked everything, it was actually really nice packed with a bag dedicated for irradiated dosimeter and one unirradiated. That was very handy. We put them on the floor, and actually my colleagues, we were scared about the task. It looked very complex, but we managed. So the irradiations, we used 4 irradiators that I presented before: the X-ray, a horizontal with cesium cobalt, a panoramic for medium dose rates, and the radiotherapy grade for high dose rates. The dose rates were random. Before starting the irradiations, we attributed doses within the allowed ranges really randomly, but we only changed the irradiation time and we didn't change the dose rate for a specific range. So that was a bit easier to handle. We also, a trick that we played, whenever possible, we placed 1 or 2 systems on the same phantom. Like that, if a participant complained, so we could have an extra proof that to compare his results with the other participant. Ideally, that should be always done, but sometimes the size of the dosimeters does not allow it. We use a build-up plate for cesium and cobalt irradiations. Photos were taken every time. We identified the photos based on the timestamp. The information of each irradiation was automatically saved in a database, and that with a record ID number, easy to identify and then to report. But the serial numbers had to be written down on paper and then copied in Excel every time, with a manual link between the database and the serial number of the dosimeter. So these are real examples from the irradiation of the exercise. A phantom on the table of the LPS in case of the high dose rates with cobalt. This is the case of X-ray irradiation with an angle, and the cesium cobalt low dose rates, another example. So with more focus, so the automatic rotary table allowed rotations from outside the control room. And here on the right, in case of cesium, you see also the build-up plate that we had to put always in front of the detectors. at the end, we issue a certificate for each system with a unique identification number being the number of the system. And each row in the results table, it represents one irradiation. So if two dosimeters, two serial numbers are mentioned on one row, means that you're irradiated together. But it can be that also extra two dosimeters from another system were irradiated at the same time, and we have a proof in the photos how this was done. And okay, not only. Some challenges that we observe, so good quality photos prove to be very useful. Sometimes in this exercise we had some poor quality photos, and we realized only later due to bad focus. It was useful also to create independent list with background and spare detectors, what remained at the end of the irradiation, what we had in the unirradiated bag. Like that, we could check the doubles. If in Excel a number appeared twice, means that we had typing error, and then we had to use the photos to solve the mystery. For some dosimeters, it was not evident which one was the front side, so we had to look in the photos provided by the participants. Ideally, we would expect that the label is always on the front side. Then axis of rotation, which one? It's the up part of the dosimeter. So, and also the sense, the sense was always mentioned on the certificate. And we know that the ANSI standard clearly specifies the sense plus being the clockwise, which is a bit not trivial compared with mathematics. I didn't find personally this notation in an ISO standard. Also something that, okay, we are not necessarily do it always. So if the dosimeter has to be placed parallel with the front side of the phantom. So if the clip tilts it a bit, so we actually should put a spacer to have it horizontal. And also when we add the build-up plate, that's the typical way mentioned in the ISO 4037 how to put the build-up plate, and that's in case of a big detector or a small detector. That's well mastered in our lab. We had 7 complaints in total out of about 1,200 irradiations. Not too bad. Of course, it could be easier to solve them. Twice, actually what we did, so we put 2 dosimeters on the same phantom, but one was upside down. And unfortunately, this was the case of a system that had a very significant angle dependence, and the participant observed it. Then we look in the photo, and this happened only for 2 systems out of 120. So 3 times we had the wrong serial number reported on the certificate, and different from what we wrote on the paper, and then we had to look on the photos. Once we swapped the serial number of the dosimeter that fell down from the phantom, and again we had to look on the photo, but we never took photos of the dosimeters that fell down. So now in the future we should know it, and we didn't have a clear proof that which one actually fell down. And one time the reading of the participant didn't agree with the certificate. No fault was found at LNK, was correct. That was not trivial. So what we learned, that's my conclusions. Good quality photos are mandatory at start and ideally also at stop of irradiations in case the detectors fell down. The serial number should be clearly visible in the photos. The timestamp of the photo is sufficient to identify the photo because we compare it to the digital record ID number of the database. And ideally, we should have a video that records fully the irradiation, but that's not very practical. create independent list with background detectors. That solves a lot of errors at the process of quality control. And what we did, and now in the future we'll do better, so verify the dose rates with the secondary standard chamber frequently during the 2 months, in addition to the monitor chamber of the X-ray tube. Comparison of the Excel files to the paper notes done by another staff member to avoid typing errors, and independent list of errors per background detectors that were irradiated. Like that, we have multiple lists. When we compare them, we observe errors. So that's what I had in mind to present. I hope that I answer many questions, and I find this application a bit difficult to follow. I have no idea if I was speaking alone or not. I will stop sharing the presentation.
Thanks, Christian. That was great.
Okay.
We're slightly overrunning now, but it's not a problem because we've got to shoot a few shorter sessions later. That was really informative. So it was Christian Mihalescu with an overview of the intercomparison from the irradiation lab's point of view. I can see, so thank you to Abdelatif and Hannes who've posted some questions so far. There's only 3 at the moment, so if everybody's in agreement, I'm happy to answer those 3 in the open Q&A session a little bit later, unless you'd like to answer either of them now, Christian.
I can also answer pretty fast. So the distances also in the panoramic, we always do it. So under accreditation, our distances larger than 50 centimeters. For this case, I think was about 1 meter, 1.5 meters. So far away. And in this, so I think we accept between 50 and 3 meters distance for the panoramic, and in this distance we checked the 1/square distance dependence to be exponential. So like that we comply with the accreditation, with the standard. Okay, and then the other question is that one participant observed a deviation from the reference specified value with W 150-60 degrees. Okay, that's more a question for the colleague that dealt with the final results to see if that difference was systematic or not. We always have a monitor chamber in the beam. We check that that's stable from one irradiation to another one, and the only thing we change is the irradiation time. So the rest is the same current, the same distance. We don't move the phantom. Sometimes we have also 2 dosimeters on 2 systems on the same phantom. So if one observes a difference, we may be able to check another system that was irradiated at the same time, and then it's easy to conclude if where it may be an error.
Thanks, Christian. So we'll answer the remaining 2 questions a bit more fully later, because we'll probably have partial answers to them after we've gone through the results. So if everyone's okay to move on, Hannes, would you like to take over when you're ready? Thanks again, Christian.
Welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Kerry. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning in Europe, good afternoon or good night here in Japan. I'm at the moment in Japan, and I will present you the analysis of the anonymous results of this intercomparison. You have seen the number of systems increased from 62 until 130, and now it's somehow stable at between 110 and 120, but the different systems that participated changed quite a lot, especially OSL dosemeters increased a lot during the last 9 intercomparisons. GLD had been somehow stable. This dosimetry also increased, and film dosimetry, or the film dosimeters, the blue one, went from 10 or from 13 up to 4 only at this intercomparison. If we take a look at the current intercomparison, we see that more than 50% are TL systems with many different detectors. 1/3 is about OSL dosemeters with 2 different detector types, and 4 other completely different dosimetry systems. This film, active personal dosimeter, and RPL dosimeter were summarized within the group others, because no group of this has more than 10 dosimeters, and this is the limit to form an own group to keep anonymity for these individual systems. If you take a look at the contribution, again, you see the contribution of OSL increased, the contribution of this increased, and film dosimetry went back. And on this picture here, you can see that about two quarters of all systems showed HP10 and HP 0.07, whereas the rest, about 1/4, only was designed for measuring HP10. So these are the 2 groups for different dose quantities. We talked about the irradiation doses and irradiation qualities already. Some words: we always try to make energy response. That means we use different radiation qualities with different photon energies, X-ray and gammas. We use different irradiation angles, reference irradiation angle 0 degree, of course, and in this case white irradiation angles of 60 degrees. And we use different dose values from 0.5 to 500 millisievert to check the systems also for linearity. And in most times we also use one mixed radiation qualities, which is in our case white spectrum series 111 plus a cesium irradiation to check the algorithm of the different dosimetry systems. Here the same picture for all 9 intercomparisons that we performed. Again, different energies, different angles, different dose values, mixed radiation. And one point you can see here, this is the current intercomparison. We see that the dose, the photon energies are quite high for X-ray even. And this is also one reason why the number of outliers at these intercomparisons is quite low compared to previous intercomparisons. And in total, 20 dosimeters were irradiated for each system. Here, the individual results for HP10. This one is not the system number here. It's the reporting number. It's an anonymous number, and the assignment between system number and reporting number is only known by the coordinator. So it's not even known by the organizing group. So we don't know which system number is corresponding to which reporting number. Here you see all response values. You see they are somehow near 1, but you can see systems which show over response, systems or response values which show under response, but in principle they are near the optimum response 1. This is for HP10. We had 140 systems. If we try to look at HP 0.07, we only have 88 systems. And you see there are no more high over response values or under response values because of the systems which showed for HP10 not so good values were not designed to measure HP 0.07. So they are missing here. You see there are some gaps where these systems should be, but they were not designed to measure HP10, which was already asked during the registration procedure. Again, back to HP10. This is the graph for HP10 you have seen already. I said very many data points near response value 1. And if we make a distribution, a frequency distribution, we find this function which has a distinct peak and a distinct maximum at 1. And we can see it here more closely. Just a moment. We can see it here quite closely, and the maximum is very near 1 for HP10 for all response values. The median value is 0.97, and the mean value is very similar to that. So this is a very nice frequency distribution function for HP10. For HP 0.07, we see a very similar function, maybe a little bit shifted to lower response values. But again, the median value is very close to unity here. And now we take a look to, take a look at all distributions for all radiation quantities of these intercomparisons for HP10. You see the median value, which is the diamond, is very near to 1. However, for W110, there is a distinct under-response for many systems, but all other values are also below 1. And this is the distribution for all values here. And you see again 0.97. The blue box is 50%, plus minus 25%, 50%, and the black needle is comprises the range of 90% of all dosemeters. This is for HP10, very smooth, but all those values, the response values, the median are below 1. If we go for TL systems, for instance, and you remember there had been many different detector sizes, but if detector materials, but nevertheless, if we take a look only at TL systems, which are 63 systems, we see the same under response for W110, then more over responses for the high angle irradiations, some under responses for cesium and cobalt for the median value, a distinct under response for the mixed radiation, and for all radiations, again, the picture we have seen already, 0.95 in this case. This is for TL systems. If we take a look at OSL, for instance, you remember there were 2 different detector materials used for that. More distinct under response for X-ray irradiations, more over response for cesium and cobalt, but a very good calibration overall, which is very near to 1, and the same under response 0.93 for the mixed radiation quality. If we go now to HP 0.07, 88 systems, we see a similar picture. All values are somehow below 1, and we see some under responses also for the 60-degree irradiations for W110 and W150, but we will see this in more detail later. Here I have a picture which shows all radiation qualities that we performed during the last 9 intercomparisons. So we compare different intercomparisons and different systems and so on, but nevertheless, you see the median value for all these values is very near 1, and for all 930 systems that we tested during the last many years, the median is 0.96, so a little bit below 1, but very close to unity. And you see how many different radiation qualities we used. Now, angular response, you have seen already the angular distribution for W110 and 0 degree and 60 degree. They are shifted. And if we calculate the quotient of the 60 degree and the 0 degree values of the mean value, we find the distribution of the angular response. And you see it's very narrow, but it shows an over response of about 9% of most systems. So for HP10, systems tend to show over response for this radiation quality and radiation angle. And a different picture for HP 0.07 88 systems. We see that the 2 distributions are shifted, but they are shifted downwards a little bit for the 60-degree irradiation. And if we again build the quotient, we see that most systems show an under-response of about 4% for this 60-degree irradiation. So it's different for HP10 and HP 0.07. Linearity, similar. I show here only the cobalt values, cobalt low, cobalt medium, cobalt high. So millisievert up to hundreds of millisievert. We see these three distribution. And again, if we calculate the ratio of the response values, for instance, here, if we divide the high irradiation response to the low dose irradiation response, we get this value. And you see, in principle, the linearity is quite good for most systems and very, very near to 1. So most systems don't have a problem with linearity. Only very few had problems with a high dose radiation, as you can see here with this minimum value, for instance. Now let's go to the outliers. Outliers are defined in ISO 14146 by two trumpet curves. One trumpet curve for HP10, it's the red one, which starts at 0.1 millisievert, and one trumpet curve which starts at 1 millisievert, the blue one, which should be used for HP 0.07. So you see the limits for 0.07 are wider than the limits for 0.10, and all values outside these trumpet curves are called in our intercomparisons as outliers. Here you can see all response values for this intercomparison, and you see here some are above the value, above the limit over response, some are below it, and in total 2.8% had been outside these limits for HP10. If we go now to HP 0.07, we see no outliers at the upper part, very, very few outliers in the lower part. So only 0.5% outliers had been found for HP 0.07 concerning the ISO limit trumpet curve. So if we take a look at different groups, TL, OSL, and other, we see that TLD and OSL don't show big problems. There are some issues for there are in principle some issues for W150 and 60 degree for OSL. There are some issues for W110 0 degree, and for OSL again, and for TLD mainly for high dose values for cobalt, especially the high dose with many hundred millisievert caused some outliers. And for others, for the group others, you remember many different dosimetry systems had been added together. The picture is not so fine. Many systems failed in these groups, but we have to say there are systems within this group which have no outlier at all. So it's a little bit a problem to combine very good systems with systems with many outliers, but that's we had to do because not enough systems were registered for these intercomparisons. If you compare these values for 2024 with other values, you see it's the minimum value since the whole history of our last 9 intercomparisons, 2.8 and 0.5. And one reason is, of course, that the lowest photon energy was not so low than in previous intercomparisons. Now, ISO 14146 allows one outlier out of 10 response values. So one outlier is allowed, or 10% are allowed. We used 20 dosemeters that are irradiated. That's why in our case, 0, 1, or 2 outliers are allowed. And in these statistics, you see how many percent of all dosemeters fulfill this requirement. 82, 10%, and 4% have 0, 1, and 2 outliers. That means 95.7% fulfill the ISO requirement for HP10. And for different groups, again, you see OSL, for instance, fulfill for all systems the ISO requirements. TLD 2% of the systems did not fulfill the requirements. On the other hand, more systems had no outliers compared to OSL. So you can see, I think the picture is very satisfying for TLD and OSL, that they fulfill normally the IC the requirements for the ISO standard. Now, some words about transport doses. Transport doses are an issue because the participants have to subtract the transport dose from his reading, and this is a frequency distribution of the transport dose values. The participants responded to us, and it's very good result, I would say, because it shows that 95% of all systems show doses below 600 microsievert and 80% below 350. And Christian Gärtner told that he was measuring with an APD, not measuring, was monitoring with an APD the transport doses, and he found values in the range of 280 microsievert. It's exactly the median what people what participants showed us. One reason for that is that our transports from coordinator to the irradiating laboratory are always done not on air but on land. And this, for instance, are the transport doses for the intercomparisons 2018. It was done in the UK, and all those meters were shipped by flights, and that was the reason why we had a significant irradiation part in the range of 0.5, 0.6, even high. And during that intercomparison, we had to increase the reference doses in the irradiation plan to minimize the effect of transport doses for that. My summary now: the overall median response is very close to unity. 65 or 95 or 99% of all systems passed the criteria for HP10 and HP 0.27. Calibration could be improved for some systems. The whole dose values are somehow shifted to the lower end for some systems, so calibration could improve the outlier statistic for them very good. The radiation qualities W110 and the high angle irradiation showed some problem for some participants. High dose irradiation for cobalt, hundreds of millisievert, show some problems for some systems. Outliers, the lowest number of outliers in the whole history of our intercomparison. The coefficient of variation, I didn't show this, is between 1 and 5%. So the precision between those meters that were irradiated at the same dose is in the range of 1 to 5%, and the transport dose was quite low, between 200 and 400 microsievert. And the number of participating systems is quite very high. 140 systems were analyzed during this intercomparison. And I want to end with a picture of the OG group, the old OG group, new OG group, and I say thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Hannes. That was really, really good, really informative. So if we don't have any initial questions for Hannes, we'll wait till the open Q&A. Up next, we've got Tom from Miriam Dosimetry Services going to give us a conclusion and then some future plans for working group 2 intercomparisons. I think there is a question in there from Abdelatif, Hannes, that is probably best answered by you, but if you're okay to wait until after Tom's conclusion session, I think it'd fit in nicely in the Q&A. Right, I'll stop talking. Over to you, Tom, when you're ready.
Yes, sure. Okay, thank you, Carrie. And yeah, my talk is titled Conclusions and Future Plans. So by the way, my name is Tom Grimberg. I'm in daily life General Manager of Miriam Dosimetry Services in the Netherlands. Yeah, what can we conclude? I will not repeat all the numbers that Hannes showed, but I want to conclude we've had a very nice, very well done intercomparison again. So I want to especially thank Christian Gärtner for the coordination work, huge job, plus the managing of the online platform, of course. And also want to thank Christian from SEK with his colleagues for doing all the irradiations in a very well way. Hannes for his analysis from the land of the rising sun. It was really great. So, and of course, Kerry, you for organizing this participants meeting. Okay, I'm the little red line doesn't mean anything. We'll go on with talking a little bit about the intercomparisons, how we want to move on. So Kerry already explained why we do it. I want maybe tell a little bit more about how we do our work as an organization group. So the aim is sort of clear, and what we especially want to do, we aim at a self-sustained system of intercomparisons at regular intervals. These last two things are mainly meant to be to have a predictable way of making these intercomparisons, so participants can be sure what will happen next, so that they can rely on this system of intercomparisons in future as well. So, of course, to make this this predictability, we work in these cycles. Kerry already made this picture. I may have the same picture, but a little bit clumped together. So the whole body intercomparisons take place every 2 years already for quite some time now. In between, we made intercomparisons for extremity dosemeters and also islands dosemeters. And last but not least, the neutron intercomparisons organized by the second organizing group, which works in parallel to us, which have achieved these neutron intercomparisons every 5 years. So we make this picture already quite some time, and it's a linear view of how things take place. I think it gets a bit clumsy. And while we're looking at cycles, I thought of another way of presenting this. So why not try a circle if you want to show a cycle, and but how to make a cycle of both a 2-year, 4-year, 5-year cycle. So I ended up with a 20-year cycle, and we started in 2008. So it takes a little bit while to fill in all the years, but it shows what we are at the moment. We almost completed a 20-year cycle, you could say. It's only 2 years left. And looking at this picture, it sort of, made me think of playing darts. So here we have a dart board, and if we would throw blue arrows at them for representing the whole body intercomparisons, the whole body photon intercomparisons, they'll fit nicely into all the gray segments up to the intercomparison we are talking about now. Then we have the neutron intercomparisons, which started a little bit later in 2012. They kept up with the 5-year sequence, and then in between, and now it's getting a little bit more clumsy, the extremity intercomparisons. The first one was in 2009, then we had a 6-year gap, then a 4-year gap. Then this one especially was a little bit missed. It was 1 year late, you could say. So it's getting a bit messy. And then finally, we tried to squeeze in the islands intercomparisons. This started in 2019 over here. And then we had a gap like 6 years, and one is running now. Kerry's going to tell a little bit more about that later. Anyway, what will be next? I think it's obvious that next year we want to aim for the whole body photon intercomparison again in 2026. And then for 2027, there should be a neutron intercomparison. That's in the plan for the other organization group for neutron intercomparisons. And I think probably best would be to aim for another extremity intercomparison in 2027. And that will complete our first 20-year cycle of intercomparisons from working group 2. So if I say first cycle of 20 years, you could also look at what's next. Next cycle of 20 years. It's a bit a long shot, of course, but it would start in 2028 and continue all the way to 2047. Then what we want, of course, is every 2 years, the whole body photon intercomparison. The neutron we do every 5 years. Then to tidy up the extremity intercomparisons, we could have those in every 4 years, and islands dosimetry in between. So now, yeah, we have our planning ready for the next 2 decades, if nothing else comes in between. Okay, but let's go back to what we are doing at the moment. The intercomparisons we are talking about now, this is typically our short list of actions we do. So we started originally July with the announcement and are doing the webinar right now. If we finish this, it's the intercomparison is finished except for creating a report for putting all the results together. Then the other intercomparison which I mentioned, Kerry is going to talk a little bit more about it, started in July last year. So it's only running for quite a short time, but we are heading to the end already. And the aim is to have a participants meeting at the annual meeting next month in Helsinki. And the 2026 whole body photon intercomparison would be scheduled to be announced at the annual meeting in Helsinki. And probably we would like to aim for a participants meeting in the next annual meeting 2027. But this is all to be determined and to be announced. Okay, what in the background, what is the organization group doing to make this all possible? So I think the most important task is to ensure the sustainability of all this work. So in that part, the most important thing I think we have done is on board new members in the organization group, Kerry and Nelis. So I'm very excited about that. In this way, we have a better balance of all the experience and also new energy and ideas. We'll use this onboarding also to make better standard working procedures. We already have some documented, but that can be done much better. Better archiving. We'll move everything to the EURADOS Nextcloud is our plan. We have had some discussions about the exact role, how to articulate this in terms of ISO 17025, what the intercomparisons actually mean. And last but not least, we have to do a better job in putting the reports together. So I'm not talking about the reports, the individual reports to the participants. They are all complete. But the aggregated results, the reports where all the results of all participants are put together. The last reports we published in this way was for the intercomparison 2018, and after that we were a bit stuck. So we have still quite a lot of reports to do, and we're thinking about ways to produce the reports faster in a more easy way, a more timely way. So this is all I wanted to share. Thank you for your attention and your support. I forgot to thank all the participants for participating, of course. Like Carrie said, without you, we wouldn't have these nice big exercises and all the data to compare the values against. So, Carrie.
Thanks, Tom. Again, another great presentation. Thank you. Yep, so this is actually our open Q&A session now. There's two, I think, unanswered questions in the chat. They're open for grabs from any of the other presenters that feel they were in the best place to answer them. And if anybody else still in the, so I can see there's still 106 participants in the meeting. So if anyone else has any questions, you can either type it in the chat or you can raise your hand as part of the react button, and then we can unmute you so you can ask the question of us. And I think we also have Nikki in this session, who's our working group 2 chair, who's going to help us co-host.
We do. I was just going to suggest, do you want to get all of the people that have presented to put their cameras on so that they can ask questions? Yeah, great idea. Thank you, Nikki. So we have 2 questions from Abdelatif. First one is, hi everybody, please, how are the reference values established for the different photon beams and how is their uncertainty budget evaluated? I'm happy to have a go at that one. Christian, are you also happy to have a go at that one? I think we're both heads of the radiation laboratories. So.
Yes, so we use for secondary standard ionization chambers for most of the irradiators. For the cobalt-60 high dose rates, we have our own primary standard in addition, compared with the APM several years ago. And we determine the air kerma with the secondary standards, and then we apply the conversion coefficients from air kerma to HP10 or HP007. In case of cesium cobalt, the conversion coefficients from the ISO 4037, the last version. In case of X-ray, the conversion coefficients we calculated based on spectrometry measurements, but these calculated conversion coefficients are within 0.5% the same with the tabulated in ISO 4037 for most of the
Same for us. We're a secondary standard facility. So again, we follow ISO 4037 for all of our X-ray reference fields and cesium and cobalt. We also have the ion chambers that we have calibrated at our primary national standard. I think similar to you, we also use high purity germanium detectors to characterize things like KV cutoffs and do half value layers and other things like that when we're actually characterizing those fields in the sort of initial.
So basically, we do everything according to ISO 4037.
Yeah, I've popped in ISO 4037 into the chat if anybody would like to, look up that reference document. There are 4 parts to it.
In addition, so because we are an ISO 17025 accredited lab, we also participate in multiple comparisons. The most recent was with IEA, this bilateral standard comparison with ionization chambers, but also EURAMET comparisons. So we have official comparisons for every installation we have.
Fantastic. Hopefully that's answered the first question from Abdelatif. There's another one which reads, in our 2024 photon intercomparison results, and this is Morocco, we observed a deviation from the reference value specifically for the W150 at 60-degree beam, while the other beam qualities were within acceptable limits. Were similar deviations observed among other participants for this beam? And are there known beam-specific factors that could explain this behavior? So any of the presenters like to take this one on? Please go ahead, Hannes.
Just show, I hope I have it now here.
I think you mentioned, didn't you? Yeah.
I just can show the different distributions for all irradiations, and you see that W110 at 150, 60 degree is very similar to W110 60 degree. So there is no significant shift with them. So I don't believe that that there is a significant problem with this or a systematic problem. So they are very smooth in line. So I don't think so that it's a special deviation found for this special radiation quality. But maybe Christian also can comment on that.
Yeah, for all participants, we use the same beam, so we fix it once, and then we try not to change phantom, nothing. Also to do it ideally in 1-2 days, one after the other. The only thing that differs from one participant to another one, it may be the irradiation time, but this is logged automatically by the system, recorded. Yeah, in some cases we irradiated also 2 systems at the same time. So if that's really needed, we can take a look to this particular irradiation to see if we are lucky to have 2 systems at the same time. But this I don't know exactly what were the case. But if, like that, you could easily compare 2 systems.
Thanks,
Theoretically, okay. Okay, we didn't spot errors. Okay, yeah, it's never excluded that, okay, something really goes wrong, but hopefully we don't have something systematic or also.
Yeah. Marcus from Miriam has also commented that 60 degrees in general is always near the limits of many dosimetry systems, just due to filter sizes and special algorithms. So I think we've got another question that's been added to the chat from Jeff Van Koteren, and then we've got a hand up as well. Nikki, how should we play this? Hand up or question in chat first?
Should we do hand up first?
Yeah, good idea. Are we able to unmute Jörg? Just see if I can bring up my list of participants.
Okay, I had to confirm this, but it's working. So not so much on the dosimetry part, but more on something on the procedure of transporting the dosemeters regarding the topic of anonymization, which came up during Christian's talk. We are from Germany, and in Germany, it's legally required that our dosemeters bear the institutional name and some additional information. So it might not be so simple to remove all this stuff. So actually, how important is it to have this anonymization? And if it's important, then please consider putting an additional information into the preparation documents that are issued in the beginning of the intercomparison. I mean, we can do it. We can put additional labels on it and so, but at least we should know this then in the beginning of the intercomparison.
No, for us, it's completely anonymous. So the only communication we have with Christian Gartner, so we just get them as Marta system 1, 2, 3. Okay, this was just a small remark because I think we saw in like 2 cases, in addition to the standard label, you see on the dosimeter the logo of the institute. Okay, we don't care about it, but okay, that's indeed not perfectly anonymous.
Thanks, Christian. I think other Christian has a comment as well.
Yeah, thank you. I want to add that yes, if you have dosimeters with your company name or with your with the monitoring service name on it, yes, the irradiating laboratory knows that you are taking part, but they do not know about your dose values, about the dose values you report. So they do not know how good or bad you perform. So this is, in this case, anonymity is strictly kept because only I, as a coordinator, have both information: the information about the dose values, about which those has been those dosemeters and which values you reported back.
Lovely. Thanks, Christian. Really helpful. I can see Jörg's got his thumbs up, so I think that's been a helpful answer for him. Let's see. So we've got another question in the chat. Jeff has said, looking at ICRP 110 publication, joint report with ICRU concerning new operational quantities, could it be an idea to report future and perhaps also retrospectively the conventional values also expressed in terms of the new definitions, thus allowing service to prepare for an eventual change in the operational quantities and allow them to assess the response of their dosemeters in terms of the old and the new quantities?
So Marcus has sort of answered some of that, so I don't know whether Marcus wants to come in and comment further.
Yep, Marcus, if you'd like to join us.
Actually, does he need unmuting?
Oh, possibly, yeah.
See if I can do it.
Furiously scrolling through the list of participants to find. That I've done the ask to unmute. I don't know if that will work.
I think it's short what Marcus.
Oh, now it's working. Sorry.
Okay, fantastic.
I was set to mute and couldn't. No, I wrote it in the chat. So there is the conversion factors are currently partly new calculated. So the things is a little bit on hold here from the ICRU because the ICRU is now calculating it with the new mesh phantoms. This is one thing, and there might be a few changes, especially to the skin dose and islands coefficients. And there is still a lot of discussion going on this recommendation due to its high cost and low benefit in practice.
Mm.
It might be, on the one hand, might be a good idea to use it, but you can do it by yourself. That means you have all the irradiation data. You can use the conversion coefficients that are in the ICRU report, and you can calculate at that point the doses by yourself. We did, correct me if I'm wrong, we did a short from the organization group in the participants meeting in Porto. We had a short presentation how you can do this. That means you take the results of the intercomparisons and try to see how they fit with the new proposed quantities from ICRU 9. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
I can add something from the point of view of the irradiation lab. We always state on the certificate the air kerma and the uncertainty on air kerma, the coefficients and the HP10. So
exactly,
in principle, everything can be calculated back if you have the air kerma.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we showed in Porto to the participants that they can use this. Yeah.
Marcus, maybe it's worth doing again at the next annual meeting. If it's short, we could include it in the participants meeting again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, might be a good idea.
That's my next job to organise. Lovely. Thank you so much, Marcus. Great answer. So I think we've answered all the questions that we've been put into the chat. Is there anybody else that would like to take this opportunity to ask any questions? Just look for any hands that have popped up. No, I think we're good. So I've got a quick session to finish us off. It was originally scheduled to be 10 minutes, but I can do it in 5 minutes. So if we're all done with the questions, I'll finish us up with an introduction to the 2025 iDosemeter intercomparison. So I'll just give everyone a moment in case someone wants to say anything. Okay. Right, I'm just going to share my screen again. And if you guys can let me know when that's shared.
Yeah.
Lovely. Right, we'll just finish it up. So obviously, grateful thanks to all of the presenters who've contributed their time and efforts this morning, and thank you to everybody who's participated in the open Q&A session. So finishing up with an introduction to the 2025 iDosemeter. So the scope of this intercomparison was for iLens dosemeters used in the assessment of HP3. It was announced in July of 2025, and again, specifically for iLens dosemeters. It was a slightly smaller scope intercomparison. We expected less participants than for sort of whole body, slightly less than for extremity. And it was for photon radiation only. And as with all comparisons, it needed to be done at a primary or a traceable standard facility or an accredited facility. So the irradiation energies were between 30 keV and 1.3 MeV. So that goes from our low energy X-rays up to cobalt radionuclide. The dose range was set between 0.2 millisieverts, 200 microsieverts, up to 1 sievert, and the irradiations were to occur at 0 degrees plus or minus 60 degrees. The coordinator for this intercomparison was Olivia Van Hoey, who I think is in the chat today, from SCKCEN in Belgium. And our irradiation labs were also SCKCEN, headed up by Christian Mihailescu, who we met earlier. And then obviously our online platform administrator was Christian Gartner, again from Cybersdorf Laboratories in Austria. So I'll just run through the timeline and then I'll wrap up with the key points. The announcement call for participants was 15th of July last year. The registration of all participants and systems was done by middle of August last year. The deadline for individual monitoring systems sending application forms was the end of August. The deadlines for then sending the dosemeters to the coordinator was the middle of September. Irradiations were scheduled between October and November. These have all gone ahead and gone well, so they are complete now. Coordinator was sending the dosemeters for readout. That's all been completed as of the 1st of December last year. The deadline for the IMSs sending dosemeter results to the coordinator was the end of the year. And then the final results have been available since the 9th of January. That's to the organising group. So the organising group have put in a meeting to discuss the results towards the end of this month, and then we'll be having a presentation of the results in the annual meeting in Helsinki. The exact date and time to be confirmed, and then the deadline for the IMS receiving certificates of participation is going to be March of this year. So just to highlight the key bits from there, everything's currently on schedule. The irradiations were all complete by mid-November, so well within time. The dosemeters were returned late November. There is a small issue in that some of them may have received a dose in transit, so that's going to be discussed in our meeting at the end of the month. Draft results will have been available since December 2025, so the organising group's currently looking through those. And then the deadline for submitting remarks, questions and complaints just passed. That was last week, 11th of January, or middle of this week, sorry. So again, we've got an organising group meeting on the 23rd of January to discuss the results, and then the deadline for the participants receiving the final results will be the end of this month, and then there'll be an open discussion in Helsinki at the EURADOS Annual Conference in February, and that's between the 16th and 19th. And that's basically it. So thank you very much for everybody's attention this morning. And if there's any final questions, I'll stop sharing my screen, and do feel free to raise your hand and ask.
I haven't got a question, but I'll just add to what you're just saying. I've put it in the chat anyway, but the participants meeting for the intercomparison is on the Tuesday morning.
Fantastic.
And will be at 11 a.m.
Lovely, really helpful. Thank you, Nikki. I'll add that to my notes as well.
So can I also just thank, I know that you thanked everybody, but I will thank all of you for organising and presenting today, and for everybody joining, and hopefully many people will join again in person at the annual meeting in Helsinki.
Yes. Yes, and obviously a big thank you to the more than 100 participants that joined us for the meeting today. And once again, thank you to all my presenters for an outstanding job. Okay. I think it'll be one of those awkward exits where we all just
yes.
disappear.
Well, hopefully we'll see lots of people next month.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful.
Right,
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.